at this time? All right, seeing none, I have a second for the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. The first item is Commissioner Wexler for item number 4.
Thank you. I want to flush this out a little bit more. This is the Lauderdale Lakes item. And this time, and I realize it's further into the year, but the recommendation that's before us for the 30-day funding really, I thought didn't come from the auditor. I thought that it came from the Office of Management and Budget, because that's what it's under on the agenda, but the answer that I got seems to indicate that the auditor has said 30 days is better, so let's go with 30 days. Is that, I mean, I know you're working together, but the county staff takes that responsibility to have put this item on the agenda. Is that correct? In conjunction with working with the Office of the Auditor?
That's correct.
Okay. And because it's further into the fiscal year, we're being prudent in our moving forward with this versus a quarterly recommendation, which the prior ones were. This one is for that 30-day period, so we could expect that 30 days from now or so we will have it in front of us again.
That's correct.
Okay. That's fine. Thank you very much.
Mr. Lukic, did you want to make a comment?
Only that at the direction of the board, I continue to monitor the financial situation with the city, and it's our recommendation to move forward on a month-to-month basis because cash reserves dwindle as the year goes on.
Commissioner Lieberman.
Yeah. The question I have really is a matter of policy. It looks like we're now in the mode to just simply approve every 30 days some amount of cash to bail out Lauderdale Lakes. We had a policy discussion about 6 or 7 months ago about this issue, and we embarked on the 2-3-month funding cycles to give the auditor a chance to get his arms around the finances of the city. And so my question is really, I can't imagine we're going to do 30 days every 30 days for the next 5 years. And so I wonder when we're going to have a policy decision as a board to address this issue and come up with a longer-term repayment plan than every 30 days.
Mr. Lukic.
May I explain the 30 days? The 30 days and the appropriation that's before you is presented so that the board can appropriate the monies that have been received from the city. We are not extending credit, nor do we want to be in that situation. So that's what we're doing. At the end of the year, we should have a better picture as to how the city performed in this, their first year coming out of a very difficult financial period. Hopefully they will be successful in their efforts, and we'll have a better picture in terms of where they're going next year, and we would reevaluate then how we proceed with them for the ensuing year.
Yes, please.
Mr. Lukic, I understand what you're saying, and I still go back to what I said. What are we going to do in a month they don't make payment?
Well, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, but right now I've been assured by the city that they believe they can do that. One of the first things is if they're making a partial payment, it would be my recommendation that we make a partial appropriation. We should not appropriate funds that we do not expect to receive.
I understand your position, which is why, Mayor, I go back to how I started this conversation. I think the board needs a policy discussion for a longer-term strategy in terms of this issue. There may come a time, I don't know whether there will or they won't. I'm sure I'll hear from Commissioner Ritter on this. If my crystal ball was that clear, I would be able to buy lottery tickets on Saturday night. But obviously this is going to continue for a while, and I just don't think it's in our budgetary best interest, or Lauderdale Lakes is for that matter, to do 30 days every 30 days for the next 5 to 6 years.
And I agree with you, and I thought we had asked Lauderdale Lakes to submit a long-term plan, a 5-year plan, and I haven't seen that yet.
Yes, they did. They did submit a long-term plan, and they are working on those elements of the plan. For instance, one of the elements is the renegotiation of their balloon payment with SunTrust Bank for next year. But I think it's premature to jump to conclusions about their success over the next several years. And I think as information becomes available, including one of the elements will be their budget for next year. and how well they do budget to actual this year and what their budget looks like as they're going into the ensuing year.
The other thing, I have not seen a response. The Inspector General weighed in pretty heavily in a report, and I've not seen the city's response to the Inspector General's report, which was pretty damning, actually. I didn't think that it made the city look very good, and its leadership. And so I'd kind of like a response from the Inspector General from the city. I mean, I would think, I want to know, in light of the Inspector General's report, what they intend to do about it.
If I recall the process, the Inspector General has received a response from their draft report from the city and has issued a final report. I'll send you a copy of what I have.
Right. Commissioner,
I just think we need a Plan A and a Plan B. I'm not saying Lauderdale Lakes is going to default, but it's much better to discuss those things before it happens, have a Plan B just in case, as opposed to an unexpected, unanticipated financial impact on our budget.
and you know what, I think that, let's take the most extreme circumstance that they do default. And I think the problem that we have here is that there's no mechanism in state government to deal with that default. And the governor's office has to be more proactive, which up to now has been silent on any assistance with the city. So, I think that's why we need to do everything we can to make sure that that default doesn't happen, that we monitor them closely to keep them from having a default, because we're not going to get a lot of help from the state, I don't believe. Commissioner Wexler?
And Mayor, that's really why I pulled the item for discussion here, because I actually think that this shorter window is a much more prudent way to move forward. And I'm happy that the staff and the auditor are working so closely together to monitor this and review and make those recommendations before they appear on our agenda. And I would prefer that at this point in time, take this kind of an approach, a more conservative approach, and let's see how they do this year. We don't want to have a replay of the situation where we didn't know about it and found out about it way after they were in arrears. So something like this does not allow that to occur. There was also a second payment that is due, Mr. Lukic. The second $500,000 is at the end of this fiscal year as well, if my memory serves me, or sometime this summer?
I believe that payment's due in June.
In June. So I think it also behooves us to let's wait and see what happens there as well. And I commend and applaud both staff and yourself for having this item before us for that 30-day window.
Commissioner Holness?
Yes. Mr. Luca, Mayor and Administration, have Lauderdale Lakes lived up to the agreement that they signed in terms of the payment plan that they put forward?
Yes, they have.
So to date, they have done what we've asked them to do?
That's correct.
Okay. But you're thinking that they might not? And
No,
what is the basis?
I would characterize my recommendation to be cautious optimism. I believe they're moving in the right direction. Part of this month-to-month scenario is to protect us from appropriating money that we may not receive, and it also provides a bit of discipline over the city's finances in that they have to come up with the money to pay for the services effectively in advance.
Thank you. I move approval.
What's the amount of accounts receivable as it stands today?
Well, it's roughly, I wouldn't venture a guess. I don't know the exact amount, but it's at least $500,000 less than it was at the end of last year. And
was it like $8 million thereabouts?
It was $9.1 million
Yeah,
originally. It's about $8.5 million roughly.
And this board's known for its stewardship, and in that line, that vein of thinking, I'm going to be bringing to the board in a couple weeks a discussion having to do with the 911, because that account receivable is building pretty rapidly, and of course, the cities don't want to bring that issue forward only because the ones that aren't paying don't want to pay. And now Fort Lauderdale's, I don't know if you've all seen the traffic going back and forth, but Fort Lauderdale's saying, well, wait a minute, we paid in good faith, and now we shouldn't be towing the line when no one else is. But we can do that. But I'm just, you know, it's all about the accounts receivables, you know, and got to watch the money, the dollars closely. Commissioner Lieberman.
Just don't want my comments misunderstood. Mr. Lukic, I think you did a great job with this financial stewardship. The point is this is going to be a multi-year situation. And it just seems to me, and I'm not saying they will default, I'm not saying they won't default. I don't know. But I think we need to have a plan A and a plan B. And every 30 days for the next 5 years doesn't seem to me the way that we should proceed long-term. And it lacks a plan B in the event a payment isn't made. So I'm not questioning what you've done. I think you did a great job. I'm just saying when I look at the length of that liability, we need to have a policy decision as a board and have some strategies.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Commissioner Wexler, item number 8. You're next.
I pulled 18.
Oh,
4 and 18.
I must have misunderstood you then. I thought it was item 8.